Lance, is it just you and Jerry there in the
Yep,
in the
it's
conference
just
room? Yeah.
just me and Jerry today here. Daniel's out; he's traveling, visiting family, and a couple other. Our deputy director, Jonathan Wheatley, just had his baby girl. Um,
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, his baby was about 9 pounds, which I'm trying to fathom because I had a 4 pound and 5 pound kid, and so like I'm trying to imagine a baby double that size, and my mind is just quite not grappling with that. So they're both out, but Kelly's also joined us via Zoom. She had some meetings downtown. Um, but yeah, that's it for us today. And this is kind of who I expected to be on. There's a couple other people, but I think we can kind of go ahead and dig into things. Tess, I don't know if you saw my email. I did send it late, so apologies for that. But I kind of sent an agenda of just some things that would probably be good for us to discuss today. Um, the first item is just the fact that, as we are all well aware, the building code will be holding its board meeting next Tuesday. I will not be there in person for that, just so you guys are aware. I will be traveling with Kelly around the state, but I'll do my best to hop on via Zoom to hear the deliberation of the board on that. I did also just make a note of some trainings that David's doing. We've kind of already mentioned previously about his air balance training and DET training in the month of December. David, is there any update you wanted to give as far as like, I know you just mentioned via text about Central Idaho, Eastern Idaho trainings, but anything you wanted to share on that note?
Oh yeah, so right now I've touched bases with them, and we're just getting the logistics part of it settled as far as the dates for their facilities and whatnot, um, and coordinate that. But I'm going to be hitting Central Idaho in November. That's what we tentatively have set right now. Is I'll be hitting the Mountain Home Twin Falls area, and then I'll try to incorporate bringing down as many Wood River people as we can, and then in December doing Eastern Idaho. So I'll be hitting the Pocatello, um, Idaho Falls region. I'll probably hit both locations. Working with Richard Bigelow over there in Pocatello right now, just trying to get facilities set up and getting dates that work with him, and then trying to coordinate that also with Idaho Falls. So we're narrowing it down.
Great.
Awesome,
Thanks,
thanks.
Dave. Thanks for coordinating those.
Thank you.
Yeah, and when it kind of becomes more clear where you'll be and when, I'll definitely do my best to get an email out to our members just so they can.
Yeah, be aware of it. I will. As soon as I get these dates set, I'll definitely be notifying you, Lance, and so we can get any notifications we out that we need to get out.
Yeah, and
Do
that'd
you
be.
know through the building departments and folks you're coordinating with over there, did they try to get that information out to their builders in their area as well?
They do, yeah. So Post Falls, for example, Tisha up there, she sends out to all their contractors. They have an email list, so they uh they get it sent out. And I know that Pocatello and Idaho Falls, they're really good. They'll usually at Idaho Falls, they'll credit CUs for their contractor licensing there. So they send out emails there to showing that they're available to get CUs for that training. And we usually have great turnouts in Idaho Falls.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
do coordinate, the building departments are a great help.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, David, for just kind of sharing an update on that part. And then I did reach out to Brian, and he mentioned that he won't be joining us today, so we won't have any update as far as on the IACC front, but we'll check in with him and Jerica later. So then the next portion, we just kind of wanted to dig into yesterday's meeting. The way I had it laid out is if Jerry wanted to go first, then David, if you want to add any thoughts about that, and then also the work that you're doing to just gather comments on the commercial code, and then we'll go from that point.
Well, it was very brief, probably one of the shortest public comment hearings I've ever been to. start finish, probably less than 15 minutes. And then we had probably more of a deeper conversation afterwards on a couple of specific subjects. It seems like the number one concern with the package of rules is the snow load. And Justin and Carl who is one of the architect engineers on the board, put together a document that will be available next week showing what areas of the state are affected, and see if there's something we can do there. The recommendation from the builders related to snow load was to leave it as it was in 2018, but I'm fairly confident that they didn't read the engineer's report that initiated all of the changes, because the way that data is gathered and stuff has changed significantly. I think really at the end of the day, and I don't know how deep we want to get into it, because we are working on the energy code. There's some liability there. There's some risk. And I think that's what's driving the new standard. And depending on who is the one making the decisions, there's probably potential risk transfer there. So that would be my only caution, was if we know we have problems and then we willfully neglect to address those, I think you're setting yourself up. So I'm not going to get in that conversation other than to let them, if they ask my opinion, I'll share it with them. But really what we're trying to do is address risk. Unfortunately, complying with the new snow loads where they do have to increase it has a significant cost to it. And I think that's, worth considering, but it's going to have to be, there has to be some acknowledgement there. As far as the energy code goes, there was the only real comment was from Ken Burgess, who is the lobbyist for the Building Contractors Association. I guess there was fairly, wide support for the air sealing part of it. In fact, they just said we're good with that, which is promising. I think that's something that will give us a significant measure of savings, something that we actually can measure, and so we hope to see improvement there. And then they offered to put the heat sensors in all of the garages, so that we can at least take a first step towards addressing the lithium-ion battery situation. And then the other one was that they were in agreement to add the ADU appendix to the code statewide. And so I think all of those are real positive steps, with the caveat that they really wanted to do all of that, but not adopt the new code, not adopt the new energy code. And so we tried to address that. I tried to address that. I don't think, and I relayed that, I don't think it's a good option. I think we could do it. I think it's kind of messy. And they didn't really give a specific reason for not doing it. And so after the public comment was closed, we had some additional conversation about, was there something specific, or were there specific things that they wanted us to address? And they really didn't come up with any specifics. And I try to keep my bias and opinion to myself, but I think really part of the resistance is just based on history. It's been kind of a sore subject at times, a lot of debate in the legislature, and I think they just, would rather not, but they're not really giving us any specific things to act on. And so I talked to Ken and, relayed to him that we had addressed all of the cost issues, anything that we thought, would be perceived as, driving up cost and trying to address the, we're not adding to regulation. This is not new regulation. It's just evolving regulation, which is something we're gonna have from this point forward. Everything changes up there. That's why the legislature meets every year. Most of the work they do is related to evolving changes to a number of policies and regulation. So this is not outside of what they normally do. I did offer to meet with them, offered to attend any of the, contractors meetings and stuff. And I think, based on the board's decision next week, that conversation needs to happen anyway. And so, I will be meeting with them as much as, they will allow. But it seemed that after we talked about the training side of it, that, ICC is not offering training for the 2018. And so we're training our new inspectors to the 2021, which has been heavily revised by the 2024. It's just, it's not ideal. And then, those guys then we have to come back and untrain them and say, well, yeah, but this is, we're not doing this, this, and this, so don't be, red tagging or bringing this up. So it makes it a little more of a challenge. But anyway, he seemed to be open to that after we kind of pointed out the work that we had done and what we had done through the amending process. And he seemed more open about it. He said, he would be meeting with people this week and run it past him. And so hopefully we have, not quite a strong opposition next week. Or I should say, we don't have a direct opposition. And I think they're open to doing a little more work based on our conversation yesterday. Jason, you were there. Did you see it differently, or do you have anything to add with that?
I mean, the best part of that whole meeting was the after meeting conversations, I would say, right? I mean, yeah, because there was the other part of, hey, he's going to meet with Representative Crane and Representative Palmer, as is
Yes.
our Idaho lobbyist is too, because Representative Palmer did meet with Doppel, and one of his quotes was, "We don't need an energy code in Idaho," right? So there's that aspect of it that we got to get through, because they're on that House Business Committee where these rules go through.
Exactly. And Palmer, in the conversation with Justin, he was a little more open. He didn't slam the door on it.
Yeah. But I would agree, the initial comments were, let's just take this air sealing stuff and put it in the current energy code. But I think you explained the changes well on the residential to him, that he was starting to come around, as long as he understood they were kind of the same in the 24. I think he still needs to talk to his, builders, but
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was based on cost, right, or perceived cost. And so we've told them, hey, we've taken everything out that we thought.
Yeah. And the snow load thing, he said, the builders want the snow loads rolled back in climate zone 6 only. Which is, I don't know if that's possible to do, but so he's kind of crossing over into structural code and the energy code for areas, I guess, for climate zones. But that one is a tough one. I mean, it's going to be less for some jurisdictions and more for some jurisdictions, depending on your site location. But it seems to be pretty accurate, and it's kind of the way they went with seismic loading, right? It's those maps when you do projects.
So for those of you that haven't been involved in this for the past 10 years, both Brent Crane and Palmer came to a building code board meeting years ago and basically told them right there in the public hearing that they didn't need to do anything more because they weren't going to allow it to be introduced. And so, which I think half the board members threatened to quit right there on the spot. It's like, we're doing what we've been authorized by the legislature to do. And so I think their position is softened a little bit. I think Palmer will listen to, the information. I think, Brent Crane is probably a little more, non-regulation oriented. But we're hopeful that, as when we developed when we adopted the 2018 code, because we had consensus within the industry, they really didn't have a choice. I mean, we presented it and nobody testified against it. And they just, were amazed that we were not having the debate there in the legislature, and as we got it done. So if we do our work and address everybody's concerns, hopefully in January, I and others can go up there and say, we've done our work, we've done the research, we can stand behind what we're offering, and we have consensus within the industry. So that's the hope. Kind of rest on our meeting next Tuesday, but we don't have, as was mentioned at the last board meeting, that that they may want to tap the brakes. We did not get that message, and my conversation said that we're going to move it forward. So I don't know what could happen between now and then that would shut that down. So I'm hopeful that next Tuesday's meeting is fairly brief, and they'll take the appropriate action on it. Before we get into the activist part of it or the support part of it, I just wanted to bring up one other thing, and Jason, you're welcome to talk more about that. But we had, as part of our energy code and part of the argument coming from the legislature was that somehow the energy code had an impact on affordable housing. And I think through their interim committee on housing, they've, had enough input from enough different stakeholders that they realize that that's kind of a subject unto itself. And I think there's some good progress being made in that area, but I'm not hearing anything about, the energy code having an effect on affordable housing. And would that be reasonably correct, Jason?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's been maybe someone's brought it up once or something, but primarily it's more like zoning reforms and how can we get more housing approved and more density and more accessory dwelling units, and can there be more funding for affordable housing and permit timelines, right? Can we get permits quicker? Can we get zoning approvals quicker? Those have been the majority. Infrastructure, of course, infrastructure and expanding infrastructure and the cost of that and impact fees. All that's been discussed more in that committee. And there's one more meeting maybe next Friday, to kind of go over. They broke us into subcommittees, and there's like a list of 30 things, I think, but energy code's not in there.
Okay. So to kind of super summarize where we're at right now, we have a general objection kind of based more, I feel, on past history and emotion versus, logic and fact. Hopefully we can, clarify some of that in the next week. This is the time for letters and support. We would like to encourage everybody we may resend that.
The template.
The prior with a different heading on it, just say, it's coming down to the wire. They will be making a decision next Tuesday, and so, we could use, even if people have already sent a letter, we could still use an additional, appreciate your consideration type note, to the board or to Justin. Thank him for his time. Justin has been probably, honestly, in my opinion, he's been more involved than anybody ever has from the building code. From Doppel/DBS. He really has put a lot of work into it. So, I think he deserves the credit for, getting it to this point and keeping it going where other people may have given up and just said, this isn't the time. So a big shout out to Justin for his efforts. I'm still working with them we've got a kind of a little format thing that we're trying to work through. It doesn't change anything. It's just the way that it's presented in the rule itself. So we've been kind of, debating how to present that information without adding a lot of word count or space to the rules themselves. So we'll get that figured out. And then the document itself, the one that was sent out that got shared, that was missing the deletions that we were advocating for, was not the proper document. So I've been assured that everything that we worked on is still there, and the only thing that's being changed currently, and the reason they're not making it available, comes back to this table. And so we will have, Tuesday morning, we will have the format that is being acted on. So.
Yeah, that latest copy of the rules, even on other building code stuff, the board had discussed, none of that had been added in there. So
No, it's not the correct one. So.
Yeah.
And Jerry, it sounds like they're going to post that on Tuesday or before Tuesday.
I don't know, Tess, because the comment will be closed as of Tuesday. And so that document is subject to change based on actions from the board or comments from the board prior to the vote. So I don't know that we'll get a final until the board takes action.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I was a little surprised he didn't address that in the hearing yesterday, just out front, that because that draft is missing so many things. But
yeah, we're doing it totally different this year than we've ever done it in the past. It's less formal than it was previously, and less exacting on how it has to be and the timelines. Normally, all of this would have been done and submitted at the end of August. And so it's kind of up in the air because we really are trying to get this right, and we don't want to be time restricted if we don't have to be. And Tuesday's the deadline. That's where we're at.
that is the final date for the board to be able to vote, right? There's no pushing it out to November.
What the board decides on Tuesday will be how it's going to be, and if they approve it as written, then that's what will be submitted to the legislature in January.
And they can make changes too, right? In that meeting if they want some tweaks.
Yes.
To it. Yeah.
They can. And then the legislature they can't amendment, they can line item delete, but they can't amend it. There's no process for that to happen. So. that's what's been relayed to
Okay.
me.
Lance, when we, I believe at the last board meeting, we had an open question about whether the packets or the comments would be publicly available. Did you ever get any information back from them?
I didn't get a response from Amanda on that, so I was gonna email her today to follow up on it to find out, cause if I can get that from her, I'll send it out to everyone else. So let me follow up with Amanda and maybe I'll just CC Justin on there as well, and hopefully I can get that pushed out to everybody. So that you can have a chance to review it too.
Okay, yeah, I think the packet, I mean, just like the version control is seeming confusing right now, where we have this one that's posted online, you're supposed to provide comments, but if it's not the right one, what are you commenting on?
Yeah.
And then yeah, so I think that would be helpful if
Yeah.
we're able to share that.
So-
Yeah, fortunately, they don't post things timely, and they don't post the whole packet like they used to ahead
Right.
of time, which was very nice, but you know.
So Tess, what I would recommend is that we ask for a copy of the board packet. We don't really want to, just my opinion, and I have some experience with it, we don't really want to respond to individual comments and create outside debate at this stage. People should be welcome to make their comments, but if somebody said something in that we don't agree with, we probably don't want to open something up.
Sure, no, but I mean, technically they're public, so they should be made available. And it's just interesting to see who's submitting comments and what's being submitted.
Okay, I understand. I'm just saying that anything that is directed at the board in the way of communications would be in the board packet. And historically, we've been able to get those just by
Okay,
asking.
I see, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So if we can just get the information that the board is considering, then, we're not stepping on any toes.
Yeah.
And that packet may be, in continuing developments, we may not even be able to get it until Monday afternoon, so.
Yeah. Yeah, did it sound like, I think Jason, I even heard you maybe ask this question in the meeting yesterday, where there were still a few issues after when the previous board meeting ended, there were still some things that the board needed to work through. Does it seem like they're working through that stuff, outside the meetings, in between, through information that Justin is providing?
There was definitely a separate meeting on snow load. Was there another topic too? I'm trying to remember.
I think the firewalls was another one that
Yeah,
there's maybe some lingering questions about. Yeah.
Yeah, the distance for single family. So yeah, there was definitely a follow-up meeting to try to look into that a little bit more, but I don't think it's been worked through, other than Doppel will probably make a decision on a proposal in this final copy of the rules, and then the board come Tuesday has to say yay or nay or modify.
So, Tess, were you speaking to the fire separation part of it?
Yes. Yeah, because they made some changes to that table that I don't think.
So we talked briefly about it yesterday. I was probably out of order because I'm getting outside of my lane, but the board, the old requirement was 3 feet, and the board felt that it should go back to 5 feet, and so they made an exception or if you live in a wildlife urban interface area, it's going to remain at 5 feet. So I think that was where
he mentioned adding a footnote, but it wasn't in the copy of the rules that we had. So
right.
I guess he's got it in his newer copy.
Well, it sounds like that we had all the comments from the review as far as from Jerry's notes and thoughts. And Jason, thanks for adding some context to yesterday's both meeting and after meeting. Damon, is there anything that you wanted to add as far as from the commercial side and also from the feedback that you've been gathering from different groups about that?
Sure. Yeah, I've gotten a few comments. All the comments that I received that I sent to a couple people on here, Tess and Lance and Jerry, Dave. All those comments I submitted as anonymous to Justin. Justin said he received those. He's going to incorporate them and bring them to the board. And it was a mix of architects and engineers in Idaho who were all, broadly supportive of the energy code on the commercial side, particularly because it helps maintain access to ComCheck. And that's kind of the primary way that a lot of commercial architects engage with the energy code. I have asked whether AIA Idaho would consider putting together a letter if they had consensus around adopting the 2024 schedule or family of codes or not. I haven't heard back on that yet, but I did just send them Justin's email, how to submit a letter, if that was something that the AIA board in Idaho wanted to do, because it's something that they've done in the past, and it was something that was mentioned in a couple of the comments that those that were supportive of the code wanted to potentially get an advocacy group together within AIA to submit a comment. I'll let you know if I hear anything on that, but as for now, that's just within AIA Idaho. The other industry group that I reached out to was ASHRAE, more on the engineering side. ASHRAE nationally has a position document on energy efficiency as a public interest. And I asked if ASHRAE Idaho would either what their stance was as an organization on are they aligned with ASHRAE National in terms of adopting the new family of codes or not, and to submit just any comments as an organization to Justin. So haven't heard back on that yet, but just wanted to let you know that I did reach out to both those organizations to see if there was consensus on either of them. I have anecdotal comments that were generally positive, but I don't have any, industry or I guess professional organization level feedback as to whether there was support for or opposition to adopting the 2024 code. So I've put out feelers and maybe we'll see by next week.
Damon, are you going to be able to attend next Tuesday?
Not in person, no. I will be online, but I won't be able to be there in person.
Okay, so you'll be available for questions if
I will. Yeah, I've got the day blocked out for it.
Thank you.
And then Kevin Rose is on here too. Kevin, thank you again for the table that you put together on justification for some of that language. I passed that on word for word to Justin. Yeah, hopefully that gives them the information that they need for the justification for some of those amendments to the commercial C406 section on renewables and metering.
Thanks, Damon. Really appreciate that. And, special thanks to you for your hard work, especially during this time of not feeling the best for the past little bit. But thanks for all your efforts on that.
Sure. Yeah. And if I get more comments, I'll just, I'll forward them on.
That sounds great. I think that's kind of the main items for today's discussion. The only other item that I thought would be worth for us to bring up here is we know the meeting's next Tuesday. should we plan on having another code collaborative meeting anytime soon? Should we kind of consider, should we not have a meeting planned unless we feel the need to until sometime next year? Just kind of wanted to see what everyone's thoughts were for when we should have another code collaborative discussion.
Need to do it before the end of the year so that if we need to, generate some activity before the legislature meets. So I would say, and this wouldn't preclude any other meetings, but I would think that we would want to have an advocacy meeting between the Thanksgiving and December and Christmas,
Time frame,
probably
maybe like December,
mid-December sometime.
I was gonna say December 11th, maybe.
And then by then we would know if there's any more developed positions from contractor community.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I think that sounds good, and that December 11th works for me.
Okay. So we'll plan on we'll plan on December 11th, and we'll keep the same meeting time of 1 p.m. Perfect. Okay. Well, I'll send out a meeting invite to everyone later today. And then we'll keep everyone updated and the rest of the email group via our MailChimp email, and really appreciate everyone jumping on today. I'm sure each of you are busy working on other different projects as well. Any other comments before we end this meeting?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody that is on the call and has invested a lot of effort into this. This is not the most fun thing that we do. So thank you everybody for their patience and their engagement. I think we have something workable that represents that effort. So thank you very much.
And I want to thank you, Jerry. You've put in probably the most time out of everyone. So thank you for all your hard work and your dedication and passion.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for being willing to jump on these calls. It was really great to get to see when we took our trip up to Northern Idaho, and yeah, looking forward to continuing to have these discussions as we move forward. And if there's no other comments, we'll go ahead and give everyone their time back. This probably is one of the shortest meetings I've been a part of for the Code Collaborative. So appreciate everyone being in attendance, and we'll see everyone on December 11th. Thanks so much.
Great. Yeah, thank you all. Thanks, Jerry and Jason as well for giving us the updates on the meeting yesterday. Appreciate it. All right. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.